I'm going to start by introducing Councilor DiPaolo's already here. Come on, Paul. I didn't see you there.
Good morning, Councilor.
How are you?
Great.
Some about Wesleyan or something. I heard some college connection here.
There seems to be, yeah.
Something about that. Okay. But the other councilors will be coming in shortly. Councilor Duff won't be here. She's ill. But everybody will be in a few minutes. But we're going to get going right away. I'm going to read a letter dated July 17, 2024 from the governor. It says, "Dear councilors, I am pleased to nominate Matthew J. Nestor to the position of Associate Justice of the Superior Court. I submit this nomination for the advice and consent of the Executive Council pursuant to Part 2, Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts." Signed, Maura Healy. Maura T. Healy. What's the T for? Anybody know? Councilor Jacobs has arrived as well. We're just getting going. Tara? All right. We're going to start by having you introduce everybody who's in the room that you brought with you. Just go around and introduce them.
First, my wife Joanne, and my mother Carol Nestor, daughter Samantha Nestor, her husband Sean Clark. So Samantha Clark, excuse me, I'm still not used to it. Liam Nestor.
Going to White House, right? Tomorrow?
He already went on Monday. Fresh back. Jonathan Franklin is one of my witnesses. Chief Justice Stephen Ford is my other witness. And there are other.
All right.
Which
So,
I really appreciate.
We're going to start with your first witness. No, we didn't have the recording going. It's not like court. We don't really need it. Do we have a witness list there? Okay, we got Chief Justice Forts. You could sit next to the nominee, please, Chief Justice, and welcome.
So good morning, everyone, and good morning, members of the Governor's Council. I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to testify here today. It's my privilege to testify this morning in support of Judge Matthew Nestor's nomination to become an Associate Justice of the Superior Court. For the past 18 years, I've worked closely in the District Court with Judge Nestor. However, our working relationship goes back as co-workers to the early 90s when we worked together as prosecutors in the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. In fact, Judge Nestor was my supervisor at the time. How things have changed.
Obviously a lot older, that's why.
So I have had an opportunity to see Judge Nestor up close as a co-worker, as a colleague, as a mentor, and as a friend. And I commend Governor Healy, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, and the Judicial Nominating Commission for his appointment because I believe Judge Nestor will be an outstanding Associate Justice of the Superior Court. His experience, judgment, work ethic, fairness, collaborative nature, strong writing skills, demeanor, and intellect will make him an exceptional Superior Court judge. He is truly among one of the finest lawyers and judges that I've had an opportunity to work with in my career. Judge Nestor has earned the respect of his judicial colleagues, clerks, court employees, and lawyers throughout the district court. His competence and his professionalism, his contribution to the district court, contributions are numerous. He served as first justice of the Peabody District Court, the Lynn District Court, and the Chelsea District Court. And for most of those positions, he was drafted as a first justice because of his leadership skills and his competence. He served as a member of the District Court Probation Committee, the District Court Criminal Proceedings Committee. I asked him to serve on the District Court Administrative Committee, as that committee serves as a sounding board to the Chief Justice. He's also served as the presiding judge of the District Court Appellant Division, and he's been a mentor for new judges, both officially through the J2J program and unofficially. He's earned the admiration of his colleagues and probationers for the compassion and dedication he's demonstrated as the presiding judge of the Malden Recovery Court. In addition to his numerous professional qualifications, he's just a wonderful person who's dedicated first to his family, friends, and colleagues. I support his nomination and respectfully ask you confirm his nomination. And I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you. I do want to acknowledge that Appeals Court Judge Brennan's here and presiding Judge Mashir is here as well. Okay, so your next witness is my favorite probation officer from Malden, Yana Frank, and my friend.
Morning. Thank you for having me, and it's been an honor to speak for you, Judge Nestor. So I've had the pleasure of working alongside Judge Nestor in the Malden Recovery Court for the past few years. We've worked together for my full career of 8 years. He started in Malden covering when unfortunately Judge Johnson passed away. And I got to know him during some difficult times. But when you're a staff person in recovery court, you forget how involved you are in a participant's life. It's an interesting dichotomy to blend treatment in a criminal justice forum. Participants will share more openly in that room than they may in any other room in the courthouse. We need to balance accountability and empathy, which Judge Nestor has done impeccably. He's shown us by leading by example how to toe that line flawlessly. He became the advocates and we are the guides during some of their most difficult times. Judge Nestor has had the ability to sit in 3 recovery courts, each which provide a unique perspective to their communities, all with similar but different populations, barriers, and strengths. He has built and fostered relationships within his communities and to the community providers. He has forged bonds with the assigned probation officers in the departments to ensure clear communication and expectations of all of the recoverees. It has become emotionally cumbersome emotionally cumbersome to work with men and women in recovery. As leader of the team, Judge Nestor has frequently checked in and ensured that we have not burned out along the way. He has realized that when we are at our best, the participants do their best. He is dedicated to the success of each participant. At times, participants become frustrated and angry at themselves for their relapses, more than we may be. As we know, relapse is part of the process, and we aren't willing to give up on them. In one specific instance, a woman in a recovery court relapsed and was on warrant status for several months. She came back to remove her warrant, frustrated, pregnant, scared, and in custody. At her warrant removal, Judge Nestor was empathetic. He listened to her and was clear that she had the choice and the ability to return back into the court. But finally, that choice would be hers alone to make. She came back the next session, still frustrated, defeated, and deflated. She requested a sentence, and Judge Nestor was patient and understanding. He encouraged the participant to be truly sure that this was the best decision for her and her baby. He continued the hearing to give her additional time to weigh her options. She came back and requested to return to recovery court. She successfully completed with no additional violations. She welcomed her baby girl, who was a special guest at her mom's court appearances on several occasions. At this individual's graduation, the participant, who is typically a quiet woman, spoke and thanked Judge Nestor for nudging her in the right direction and never giving up on her, even when she gave up on herself. She addressed her fellow participants and reassured them that even though we as the court may be tough on them, we may ask of them, doesn't make sense. We are always trying to steer them to succeed. Judge Nestor has been an advocate and a promoter of the significance of recovery courts, besides his acute legal knowledge, which we've all seen displayed in everyday sessions. He understands how crucial specialty courts are to those involved. Our participants feel a loss, but they would all agree that they've been positively impacted by Judge Nestor's influence in their journeys towards recovery. I'm gladdened and fully support Judge Nestor's nomination, and the positive impact of his work in district court and to the recovery community cannot be measured.
Thank you, Gianna. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Well, that completes the witnesses in favor of the nominee. We'll now call on witnesses in opposition. Paul, could you check security? I saw a line down there.
I heard you took them all out, Terry.
Hearing none, I'll close that part of the hearing. The floor is yours.
Good morning. I want to start by thanking all the councilors for speaking with me prior to today's meeting and for your time here today. I know that we're all busy, and I really, truly appreciate you making time for me, reading through my application, meeting with me, speaking with me. I really greatly appreciate your time. As some of you know, I went through this process years ago, and I know I haven't changed a bit. I look great, thank you. Yeah, I also want to give my heartfelt thanks to Governor Healy and Lieutenant Governor Driscoll in their office for placing their faith in me and allowing me to sit before you today as a nominee. Chief Legal Counsel Paige Scott Reed and Deputy Legal Counsel Derek Kesselheim made a difficult and time-consuming process run smoothly. Thank you to Valerie McCarthy and her staff at the Governor's Council for making all this work in a quick time frame. Thank you also to the many members of the JNC that pushed so much time and effort into this process. My discussions with the governor's council the past week were actually fascinating to me. I didn't think they were going to be, but they were fascinating because we talked about what has changed in the district court in the last 20 years and where the district court should head. As you've heard from Gianna Franco, and I greatly appreciate her being here, and I greatly appreciate Chief Justice Ford's being here. I've been in the drug court for about 12 years now. I've seen profound differences that it's made in people's lives, the participants, the loved ones of those affected by substance abuse disorder, and even judges and court personnel that work in those sessions. We should continue to expand specialty courts to meet the needs of those who come before us. Also, when I first started in the trial court, we used to retain a portion of the probation supervision fees. The more money we collected, the bigger our budget was. We've now thankfully moved to a system where probation supervision fees have been abolished. This has dramatically changed the dynamic between probationer and the probation officer. We should press ahead and figure out ways to make the terms of the probation uplifting and less punitive. The second major topic of conversation this past week has been, why do I want to go to Superior Court? I love my job in the district court, and I will certainly miss my colleagues, and two great friends have showed up today, and I really appreciate Bob Brennan and Matt Machera showing up. It is great to have you here. But I'm ready for new challenges and new opportunities. I look forward to assisting in whatever way you can in the Superior Court should you approve my nomination. I look forward to challenging complex civil litigation and criminal matters. It's my hope that I can make a difference there going forward. I would just like to take a moment to remember and thank a few of the absolutely wonderful colleagues I've had over the years. The late, great Lee Johnson. I've never had more fun while learning a great deal about life than when I sat with him. Bert Conlon, a gentleman at all times and a role model for everyone around him. Ellen Flatley, countless lunches beginning with me saying, I have a question about something I just did during a jury trial. And her response, oh, Matthew, my dear, you've certainly made a hash of it. I would immediately say, yeah, Ellen, I know, that's why I'm asking. She was a wonderful colleague, a dear friend. And I always, whenever I bring up her name, I always mention that she was the first female district court judge in Essex County, and she was quite proud of that, as she should be. And if my appointment is approved, I will miss most of all working with an incredible group of district court judges. I asked some people to review my remarks before this meeting today, and there was a suggestion, perhaps a strong suggestion, that I wasn't really letting people know who I am with my statement. Well, I guess first of all, who I am is I'm not really thrilled with the idea of letting people know who I am in a group of people. So I thought I'd maybe talk about just my hobbies for a second and why I have those hobbies. I love yoga. I started doing yoga on this job. The reason I love it is the judges in here won't say it, but every once in a while the job is too much. And yoga, frankly, is refreshing, rejuvenating, re-energizing. That's why I do that. I take French and Spanish online lessons almost every day, just short ones. I take French because my mother, decades ago, encouraged me to go to France and be a foreign exchange student in high school. And I still love sort of brushing up on the language. I take Spanish lessons every day because I love to talk to people. And I will say this, when someone's in the courtroom that comes up in front of the microphone that is not fluent in English or doesn't speak English at all, they're confused, they're anxious. And if I can say a few words in Spanish, which I know the appeals court says do not do, but if I can say a few words to them, I immediately see the anxiety lift. For example, necesitamos esperar una traductora. Siéntese, por favor, solo unos minutos. All I've said is, we need to wait for the interpreter. Please take a seat. It'll only be a few minutes. The magic that it lifts in that person's face is worth every second that I've spent working online. I wish I had a trick, frankly, for everybody that came in front of me. But that seems to work to put people at ease. I play the banjo. I don't really know why they play the banjo. I play it because I always thought that people were really cool that could take an inanimate object and make a beautiful sound out of it. I don't make a beautiful sound out of it. The best I can tell you is that I've been playing it for a while, and one of my daughters walked by the room where I was playing, and she said, huh, that doesn't sound horrible. That's as good as it gets. I also recently started a small group of people for a Shakespeare book club. Why? Because I find it fascinating that hundreds of years ago, Shakespeare talked about the human condition, which completely matters today. It's the same issues today. And because I love talking with smart people about things that matter to them. And the last hobby I have is horse racing. And people are like, why do you like horse racing? as well. I like horse racing because when I was 10 years old, I started going out to Saratoga with my dad and my two uncles. And I have great memories of going out there. And when I go out there and I smell the cigar smoke, or I see a couple of old guys cursing out a jockey for not giving the horse a proper ride, it brings me right back to that moment. I will say this about the rides out there and the rides back. My father was a Reagan Republican. My uncle Larry was a member of the union at GE for his whole working career, and my uncle Red's a Teamster. They were interesting conversations. The worst it ever got was when my uncle Larry jokingly got back in the car with a cup of coffee for him and Red, and root beer for me. My father said, "Where's my coffee?" My uncle Larry said, "Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Get your own coffee." And I often think America could learn a lot from the way they talked and the way they treated each other. Before I close, I just want to thank the most important people in my life. If you ask me what makes me happy, it's my family that makes me happy. All three of my kids, Samantha's here, I've already introduced them. I also have my daughter Miranda. Her and her partner Allie couldn't be here today. She's in school to become a physician's assistant, and she's currently doing a rotation in a pediatric hospice center, which I didn't even know they had. She wanted to come, and I said, "I think what you're doing is more important than your presence here today." But she wanted to be here, and her partner Allie is in Colorado in grad school. In any event, I've told you that my wife is here today. What makes us happy these days is the fact that our kids want to spend time with us. And every summer, where's the chief? My new chief, hopefully my new chief. Vacation scheduled for August 12th. We do summer, we do winter, and the kids always hang around the house with us, and we love it. All three of our kids played college sports, so we spent a lot of time going to different games, and that was awesome. That no longer happens, but the fact that they want to still have us in their lives, really, my wife and I are most grateful about that. My mother's here. She's the absolute epitome of a strong woman, and I won't go on and on about the role model that she's been for my two daughters. In any event, my family is what makes it all fun and worthwhile, and they've been an incredible source of strength and joy. I thank you for your time here today and in the past week, and I hope that you'll support me in becoming judge on the Superior Court. Thank you very much.
I just want to say before I turn it over to other councils that I received a lot of calls from other members of your family, that is the trial court, the district court. Judge Achia called me this morning, Judge Costa called me this morning, and as I've been going around the district courts that I might appear in front of occasionally, people have been grabbing me saying, "Is Nestor going to be okay? Is Nestor going to be okay?" So you have a lot of support in your other family too. Councilor Iannella.
Morning, how are you?
Good morning.
If you have any questions, I gotta tell you, I don't know you, I've never appeared before you, I'm an attorney, but I've heard of the court on the business. But as soon as your name came before us when the governor nominated you, you'll never have a better sponsor than Councilor Terry Kennedy. He thinks the world of you. I said, don't have, you know, I got a lot of respect for Terry. You seem like you have such a wonderful demeanor. Like I said, I've never seen you before because I don't go to court. But when you vote, when your name comes before us, I will be there to support you. And again, Councilor Kennedy has been phenomenal.
Yes, and I thank you, sir.
Councilor Devaney.
Good morning.
Good morning. I was back of an accident. What a detour I had. I really had a tour, so I apologize. But good to see you again.
Very good to see you again.
Thank you for all the time that you took. I really appreciate that. It
Thank
means a
you.
lot. So, tell me, you have, which is remarkable, 20 years you've been, and I voted for you.
I appreciate that
Which
very
is
much.
incredible, 20 years, and you look great.
Thank you.
And I know the first thing I said to you when we met, what took you so long? And, you know, I believe in promoting from within. If you work at Dunkin' Donuts and you're the assistant manager and the manager retires and you've done your job, you should get it. And I think the experience that you're bringing from that court to the Superior Court is amazing. So we talked about a lot of things. And we talked about the difference And what do you see in your experience going to the Superior Court? So I know, but why don't you tell the people here what you
Sure.
Which is it?
I think obviously the major difference is in the district court, you're handling a lot of cases and a lot of people and a lot of issues that don't come before the Superior Court. What I'm really looking forward to, if I am a judge in the Superior Court, is really taking a deep dive in individual cases, really figuring out complex civil litigation, criminal matters. Whereas in district court, unfortunately, a lot of times we're concerned with volume. So I'm really looking forward to focusing on cases and dealing with legal issues in a way that you don't really get a chance to in the district court.
A lot of people don't know how different each of the courts are, and there's some misconceptions, and some people just don't know. And the Superior Court is the only court that takes up abortion. No other court, but it's only for 15-year-olds and younger. But you and I know from you that you know the law and you know canon too. So canon, that's for 15-year-olds and under without parental consent. So as the law dictates, canon too. If that judge, for any cases coming up before the judge, has any bias, he is mandated to recuse himself. So I think that people should know that, because it's really, how would the average person, I wouldn't, but only because of my job, I've looked into that. So I think it's important for people to know where that goes. But do you know something, if I can take from your time? What I'm concerned about is, does the judge go further? Do they find out who the rapist is? Is it the father? Is it a family member, and that child is gonna go back to that family? That's the thing, but that's something that I have to look into, because that's what I'm concerned. Do they go that step? Do they ask those questions? So anyway, but so tell me, and we've already talked about it, I want you to tell us specifically what the learning curve would be for you to go to the Superior Court.
Well, the learning curve is certainly, on the criminal side, there's certainly crimes that the district court doesn't have jurisdiction over. So there'll be a learning curve there. Frankly, I think the best way to learn about an individual crime is to read the jury instructions and the cases associated with those instructions. On the civil side, it's somewhat just a question of amount. I mean, the amount in controversy in the district court is capped at 50,000 typically. So we get all the same issues, contract issues, employment issues that you'll get in the Superior Court. It's just sort of a different amount. There are clearly civil cases in the Superior Court that I haven't experienced with, tobacco cases, things of that nature. But I really look forward to applying the same sort of level of analysis that I have in the District Court in the Superior Court.
I couldn't be happier, because I just think, you have applied the law, how many cases, and we talked about them. And you've had some serious cases, and we talked about that. So why don't you tell us what is the most, one case that you always remember out of all of them, and it was rewarding?
Well, I'll tell you, what I sort of like to think and say is the most important case to the person in that courtroom is the one that they're in. And most people, when they come into a courthouse, they've never been before and they're never coming again. And they remember everything about it. So I really try to remember that when someone's in front of me, that this is an important day in that person's life. Not necessarily a good important day or a bad important day, but it's an important day. So I do focus on that. If you're asking me, there's been so many cases that are frankly horrific, and there's been so many really good.
Tell me.
I honestly, I can't count them. I literally can't count them. Ms. Franco alluded to one that was really, really wonderful. The woman that you talked about, she wanted to take her time. She was in recovery court and she just wanted to be sentenced. And when she said at the graduate, when I welcomed her back, and frankly, I literally used the words, "I am begging you to stay in recovery court." And she came around. And when she used the words at her graduation that they would have taken a baby if I had taken my sentence. That was pretty fulfilling to me. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a pretty good day. There's a lot of good days in the district court, and there's frankly a lot of bad days. But I can't really there are just so many cases that you have an impact on, and I think you have to remember, no matter, even though there are so many cases, each case has an incredible impact on the person that's in front of you.
And I don't want to embarrass you, Judge, but when you told that to me, when tears came to his eyes.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
We both cried because you're talking about taking a baby away from a mother. So, and I have to tell you, I say it all the time. I don't vote for anyone if they haven't got compassion. You get compassion stamped on your forehead. So I'm just so pleased. And I know that you're going to do a great job. And I can't believe 20 years. And imagine, and Chris Iannella was here with me, and we were proud to vote for you. And we're looking forward to next week when your council will make the motion. So thank you for applying.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all your time.
A lot.
Thank you for all your time.
Thank you, Councilor. I'm not so sure I'm making the motion yet. We're not there yet.
No, no, but you have to make the motion to, for us to.
See. Councilor DePaolo.
Thank you, Counselor. Good morning.
Good morning.
We had a great conversation about things I care about. So I just want to talk about a couple of those issues to have them on the record and for the public to see how you think. First off, we already heard this morning something I asked you kind of pointedly. I've worked with young women who are a young woman who was in that situation. And I hope that, strike that, how would you approach that if a young woman were before you in that situation?
With compassion and empathy, period.
And an acknowledgement, you talked about an acknowledgement of what?
I will echo what Councilor Iannella said, that you have an enormous champion in Councilor Kennedy, and I received several calls enthusiastically sharing how much he respects and supports you. I want to thank you for driving out and spending time with me. It was a really, I really enjoyed our conversation, and it was far-reaching and covered lots of different areas. It's funny, I was going to ask you to describe the HUB program. Because I will just underscore the reason that it sounds like just a phenomenal social construct that I think everywhere across the state could benefit if there were that kind of collaboration and proactive identifying of need and solutions brought to bear. It's just, I'm very impressed. But
If I could just interject, 20 years ago, none of this was possible. No one talked about the HUB program. No one really talked about recovery courts. No one talked about diversion. And it's really a welcome change. It really is, because it just gives everybody another tool.
Exactly. So I just want to applaud that exists and encourage the state to be listening and places where that can be put into practice. I think we all benefit. The one part of your application we didn't get to, I left for today. So you talk about access to justice and the ways in which you work currently in district court, but in Superior Court, I'd like to hear about your thoughts about where the need for improvement is and what you hope to yourself bring to the bench in relation to increasing access to justice in whatever way what that means to you.
Access to justice is something that the court continues to work on all the time, and I think that's a good thing. Access to justice, to me, really means being heard, right? Because everyone can walk through the door. That's the simple part. The more difficult part is making sure that person is heard. And I think you make sure that person is heard, making sure that they have legal counsel that frankly works with them. Sometimes when I get a motion to withdraw from legal counsel, that communication is broken down, sometimes I inquire, and frankly, I think in the past I probably inquired more. Now I'm like, okay, if this relationship isn't working, that's fundamental to the system of justice. So I become much more attuned to sort of allowing that motion and replacing counsel. And because I think that relationship is so fundamentally important to the issue of access to justice. The second part of that is really what's most important to access to justice is us, right? Is us listening and making sure that a person is heard. I'm not giving away any state secrets here, but one of the things that I do, if I've sort of listened to both sides and I sort of have in my mind where I'm headed, I'll make sure I say to the person that the case is going against, is there anything else you want to say? And I'll sort of let them exhaust themselves. I do this more often when it's not lawyers, quite frankly, when it's in an eviction session or a restraining order session. Anything else? Anything else? And I'll literally let the person get to the point where I say, no, there's nothing else. Because I at least want someone to go away saying, that person listened to me. To me, that's the fundamental sort of kernel of access to justice, is being heard.
I appreciate that. In terms of sort of groups with specific needs, so be it, you talked about, and I appreciated what you said about language access, access to interpreters. One of the other areas that I've heard locally in Western Mass can be a challenge is creating an accessible space for people who have cognitive challenges, be they neurodivergence or traumatic brain injury that has impacted their cognitive function, for whatever reason, the cognitive executive function may impede their ability to fully engage with their case, and some judges I've heard are resistant or just not really fully aware of what those challenges look like and what kind of accommodations maybe could be made. But do you have any experience around that?
I do, and part of the problem, honestly, is the courthouses we have. There's no room. There's simply no room. I mean, I was in both Peabody and Lynn when the federal mandate came down about a safe and secure room for alleged victims. There's no room for it. We had to take space. We literally took space away from the domestic violence HAWK program and had to find them another spot. So part of it's really a physical thing, but also it's just being aware of it, right? Once you're aware of it, you can deal with it. Because simply, you can have people sort of say, this person can wait outside. Because a lot of times, as you know, people that are neurodivergent or have other similar issues, they can't sit in a courtroom. Like, there's too much coming at them, right? And that's really the issue. So, I've said to people that need to, you can wait outside. We'll come get you when we need you. And that goes all the way from people that are neurodivergent to people with a young child, right? I don't get upset when a baby cries. I'll just talk louder, right? Or frankly, at some point, I'll just say, you can please feel free to wait outside. It's the same thing. It's just simply being aware of the needs of the people that are in the courtroom. Now, the problem sometimes comes in is you're open to sort of understanding this, but you're doing what you're doing, and you don't sort of see the crowd. And I think one of the ways you can do that to sort of effectuate that is to make sure that court personnel know where you stand, right? It's not a problem that we need to get an interpreter. I have never conveyed to anybody, we got to get an interpreter. That to me bothers me to the nth degree because it's only an eye roll, right? But it's not only an eye roll to the person in front of you, right? I'm a problem, right? And that's why I say this is not a problem. We'll get someone. Anyway, it's simply being open to it, understanding it, and trying to deal with it. The dealing with it is almost accomplished by acknowledging it. So.
I appreciate that. I don't have any further questions. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Councilor Devaney.
I forgot to say when I met with you for all that time, and I want to say that I got a call from Judge Maida, and she talked about how you helped her out in Air. She's first assistant. She had a situation, and Judge Machera, we talked a long time on the phone, and they told me all about how outstanding he is as a judge and how much they supported him in the Superior Court. And he also is in the Belgian Waffle Hall of Fame.
I do like a good waffle, I'm not going to lie.
I know Judge Brennan wants to go again this week. Judge Mehta called me as well. I didn't mention her. Okay, so it's my turn. Judge, does anybody else have any other question? Counselor's
comment. sparked something I forgot to say, because I like to acknowledge the folks who reached out to me. You have a lot of fans on the bench. You have a huge fan in your home council. And since I didn't say so,
I appreciate that
as well. So thank you, council. I appreciate it.
Judge, Joe Ferrara texted me a few minutes ago. He's been stuck in traffic, but he certainly is sending his full support. He's going to be floating in here in about 10 minutes, but I think we're going to be done before he gets here, hopefully. I don't think there's anybody in the room more qualified to judge you as a judge, because I think I've appeared in front of you 1,000 times over the last 20 years. The one thing that, the one comment that I'll make is you always listen. When people are talking, you listen and you get it. And that's, I think, is one of the highest qualities a judge can have. You mentioned in part of your answer to Judge Jacob about how sometimes you just talk louder. I may have seen you do that once or twice in court too. I'm sure your children have seen you do that at home once or twice. But I think you're going to be great in the Superior Court. I look forward to putting your name in, making the motion to have you approved in 2 weeks for the Superior Court, and I think you'll be a great Superior Court judge. What time's your drug court graduation?
2 o'clock.
Time to get there. I think you got time for the capital